A farmer in the American Midwest paying double to plant corn, a medical imaging machine sitting idle in a European hospital, rolling blackouts sweeping across Singapore, and crude oil spiking to $132 a barrel. All of these economic disruptions trace back to one specific geographic location, this 21-mile-wide stretch of water separating the Arabian Peninsula and Iran, called the Strait of Hormuz. This flow map illustrates the volume of the pre-crisis energy trade. Every single day, 20 million barrels of oil and 20% of the world's liquefied natural gas, or LNG, squeezed through this exact choke point. That steady flow stopped in late February 2026. A military escalation in the Middle East prompted Iran to weaponize the strait, deploying drones and missiles to target commercial shipping. A localized territorial conflict severed the primary physical artery of global trade, triggering an economic heart attack across multiple continents. Iran carefully avoided declaring a formal legal blockade under international law. Instead, their targeted drone strikes created a de facto kill zone, making the waters practically unnavigable for civilian vessels. This chart shows the financial mechanism closing the strait. When insurance companies revoked war risk coverage, traffic plummeted from 1,900 vessels to 105. Alternative pipelines replaced only 25% of missing volume, forcing freight companies into a 19-day detour around Africa. The global logistics network relies on hyper-efficient, predictable timing. Adding 3 weeks to thousands of shipping routes broke the physical supply chain. Asia absorbs 80% of the oil and 90% of the natural gas that moves through Hormuz. Economies structured around imported fuel, specifically Japan, Taiwan, and the Philippines, absorbed the first blow. The physical shortages forced the Philippine government to enact emergency fuel rationing. In Singapore, a financial hub that generates 94% of its electricity from imported natural gas, authorities faced the immediate threat of grid-wide blackouts. Markets panic-bought whatever reserves remained. With oil hitting $132 a barrel, economic models projected global GDP, the total value of goods and services produced worldwide, to drop by nearly 3 percentage points. This energy vacuum creates a hard limit on the manufacturing centers that produce the world's electronics. Without consistent wattage, the assembly lines simply stop. The energy shortage immediately triggered a secondary collapse in a totally different sector, the global technology supply chain. Qatar produces roughly 1/3 of the global supply of helium. They extract it as a byproduct of cooling natural gas into a liquid state. Helium is an absolute requirement for modern technology. Its ultra-low boiling point makes it the only substance capable of cooling superconducting magnets in hospital MRI machines and controlling contamination during advanced semiconductor manufacturing. The tech hardware industry operates with virtually zero margin for error. Semiconductor giants like Samsung and SK Hynix typically hold only enough on-site helium to sustain 1 week of normal fabrication. Once the supply line from the Gulf stopped, fabrication plants initiated emergency conservation protocols, halting the production of high-value logic chips and the specialized memory hardware required for artificial intelligence data centers. Without a steady flow of this specific elemental gas, the physical infrastructure of the digital economy cannot function. The third shockwave hit the requirement of human survival: global agriculture. The Gulf is a massive force in farming. The region exports 30% of the world's ammonia and 49% of its urea, a nitrogyl compound required to fertilize almost all commercial crops. Millions of tons of that physical fertilizer sat trapped in the cargo holds of ships anchored behind the military blockade, causing the price of urea to jump 26% in 10 days. Simultaneously, the spike in natural gas prices made it too expensive to manufacture new fertilizer elsewhere. Major production plants across India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh shut down their operations entirely. A regional geopolitical standoff instantly multiplied the cost of growing a field of corn in the American Midwest, directly threatening global food security. The crisis reached its absolute boiling point on March 21, 2026. United States President Donald Trump issued a 48-hour ultimatum, threatening military strikes on Iranian power plants if the strait remained closed. Iran's Defense Council retaliated with threats to destroy essential water and power infrastructure across the entire Middle East, and warned they would densely mine the Persian Gulf, turning it into a dead zone for international shipping. Even if the immediate military tension resolves, the core assumption of the modern economy, that raw materials will always flow freely and cheaply across the oceans, is permanently broken. Governments are now rewriting their trade policies. Nations are mandating strategic national stockpiles of crude oil, agricultural fertilizer, and semiconductor-grade helium. The transition to domestic green energy and electrified infrastructure has accelerated. National security now dictates energy independence to bypass these geopolitical choke points. The 2026 crisis exposed the fatal flaw of hyperglobalization. Moving forward, the global supply chain will be fragmented, cautious, and substantially more expensive to operate.